Greatest Roman generals. You will never guess what the number one general is. Like and subscribe for weekly videos. In the comments below, list one topic you think should be in a top 10 video and comment if you subscribe to this channel. 5. Lucius Aemilius Paulus Macedonicus. I will not write his name twice, so I will simply refer to him as Lucius. Living from 229 to 160 BC, Lucius was the two-time consul of Rome responsible for the fall of the once great kingdom of Macedonia. Ever since the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, Macedon had been torn apart and divided by civil wars due to the fact that Alexander did not provide any heirs. Tensions were strained between Rome and Macedonia after the clashes Rome fought previously with King Philip V. Thus, in 171 BC, in what is known as the Third Macedonian War, Rome and Macedon were at each other's throats after King Perseus defeated a Roman army at the Battle of Callisinus. Later that same year, Lucius dealt the final blow to Macedon at the decisive Battle of Pindar, a clash of arms which famously displayed legions' flexibility over the tightly packed phalanx. Lucius ordered the execution of 500 Macedonian soldiers and exiled many more, before plundering huge amounts of money, the majority of which Plutarch states he selfishly kept to himself. To satisfy both his hunger and his men, Lucius authorized the brutal sacking of 70 towns in the kingdom of Epirus, enslaving an estimated 150,000 people. His return to Rome was celebrated with huge triumphs, in which the Senate awarded him the title Macedonicus. For Constantine the Great, or Saint Constantine, is famously remembered for being the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, which is described as a dramatic ordeal in which he viewed the forming of a cross while staring into the sun. He relocated the Roman capital from the western city of Rome to the eastern city of Constantinople, Istanbul, a city that was brilliantly centered in between the Mediterranean and Black Sea, and thus thrived as a huge trading center for people from all over the world. Thus, he is considered the founder of the Great Eastern Roman Empire, also called the Byzantine Empire, which would live on another 1,000 years following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. He established his rule by defeated Maxentius and Licinius during civil wars. During his reign he led successful campaigns against the Franks, Alemanni, Visigoths, and the Sarmatians. He is considered one of the best emperors, and first, of the Byzantine Empire, and launched it into great success for the many emperors that would follow him. 3. Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, commonly referred to as simply Pompey, he lived from 106 to 48 BC, experiencing much war and conquest with his life. In 83 BC, Lucius Cornelius Sulla returned to Rome from successful campaigns against King Mithridates the Great of Pontus, battling the powerful Marian family for control of Italy in a civil war. Soon, with the help of Pompey and his tactical maneuvers with 3 legions, Sulla took full control of Rome and declared himself dictator for life. Sulla was impressed with Pompey's performance, and over the course of decades, Pompey fought successful campaigns, the first of which in Sicily and Africa through 82 to 81 BC. He secured Sicily and established a large grain supply for Rome, before defeating King Hyarbas and conquering Numidia. Pompey was declared imperator by his loyal soldiers and given the title Pompey the Great by Sulla, before receiving lavish triumphs in Rome. Sulla died in 78 BC, and Pompey was sent to Hispania, in which he campaigned for 5 years, 76 to 71 BC, and found it difficult to deliver a crushing blow to the resilient King Sertorius, who successfully deployed effective guerrilla tactics against Pompey's forces on more than one occasion. Finally, after Sertorius' assassination by one of his own officers, Pompey returned to Rome, where he captured 5,000 gladiator rebels led by Spartacus, which infuriated the very rich Marcus Licinius Crassus, who claimed that the credit should be directed at him as the rightful one who ended the rebellion. In 71 BC he was rewarded another massive triumph in Rome, and was easily elected consul in 70 BC along with Crassus. In 68 BC Pompey gained more popularity by commanding the successful eradication of pirates in the Mediterranean Sea, however some, notably Cicero, would later criticize this. In 61 BC, Pompey joined the first triumvirate along with Julius Caesar and Crassus, mentioned earlier. The two had made up by then. Throughout the 50s BC time, not 1950s, Pompey led even more successful campaigns against Pontus and Judea, Israel. However, trouble was brewing in the triumvirate after Crassus was killed at the disastrous Battle of Carrhae, and Pompey was growing increasingly jealous of the huge military success Caesar was experiencing. Inevitably, Caesar and Pompey went to civil war in 49 BC, and Caesar was determined the victor after the decisive Battle of Pharsalus, in which Caesar's brilliant tactics and superior veterans defeated Pompey's larger numbers. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was assassinated on the order of King Ptolemy XIII, in an attempt to please Caesar. This attempt completely backfired, by the way. 2 Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus Scipio lived from 236 to 186 BC and is considered one of the greatest generals in all of history. Upon his joining of the Roman army at an early age during the Second Punic War against Carthage and led by the brilliant Hannibal Barca, Scipio vowed that he would participate in the struggle until the end. He served with distinction and notably survived the battles of Ticinus, Trebia, and Cannae, Cannae being labeled by some historians as the worst military defeat in Roman history. Even more incredible, Scipio supposedly saved his father's life, also named Publius Scipio, when he was 18 by charging the encircling force with reckless daring, from the historian Polybius. Scipio's loyalty to achieving Roman victory was so strong that, during a conference in which Rome's leaders had gathered to discuss the possibility of surrender, Scipio ran into the room, threatening the politicians at sword point to never surrender. In 211 BC, both Scipio's father and uncle were killed in battle by Hasdrubal, Hannibal's brother, and Scipio became the new head general. Over the course of the next few years, Scipio captured Carthago Nova, New Carthage, in Hispania, which became his base of operations. Scipio gained huge respect for his humble conduct towards prisoners, and on one occasion, after being offered a beautiful woman as a prize of war, he returned her to her fiancé, a chieftain of the Celtiberian tribe named Lucius. Lucius was then so thankful that he reinforced Scipio's forces with warriors from his tribe. Scipio then fought the Battle of Becula against the forces of Hasdrubal, in which he outflanked and surrounded the Carthaginian army with his cavalry, while evading the armies of Gisgo and Mago, also 2 of Hannibal's trusted generals. This victory, however, has been criticized because of Scipio's decision not to pursue Hasdrubal's fleeing army. There are many theories, but I will stick with the one in which he feared getting caught by the separate armies of Mago and Gisgo. In 205 BC, Scipio was given the title of consul and returned to Africa to resume his campaign against the Carthaginians, in which Scipio fought his most legendary and famous battle, Zama. 1 Gaius Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, I will call him Caesar, is probably the most famous Roman to have ever lived. He was a brilliant politician, writer, statesman, and of course, an absolute genius military general, and the most legendary of any Roman. Caesar was born in 100 BC, there is debate that it was 102 or 101 BC, to a noble family and joined the army in 85 BC following the sudden death of his father, receiving the civic crown for his service in an important siege. The civic crown is a laurel leaf hat that Caesar would wear throughout his life to cover his baldness. Caesar was a master orator and hosted huge gladiator shows for the public, while giving bribes to voters. Caesar launched his conquest of Gaul in 58 BC, and would remain there until 51 BC. This campaign is perhaps the most famous and brilliant of any Roman general, and is vividly recorded through Caesar's own 7-volume writings, in which he relates himself in the third person and often relates himself as a genius, and probably has some figures exaggerated. In 55 BC, in a display of the brilliant architectural abilities of the Romans, Caesar ordered his 40,000 men to build a bridge that would allow them to cross the 30-foot Rhine River to engage the Germanic forces on the other side. The bridge is estimated to have been 460 to 1,300 feet long and 23 to 30 feet wide, and only took 10 days to complete. Then, in 52 BC, perhaps Caesar's greatest battle took place at the Siege of Alicia, in which Caesar used brilliant siege tactics, which included walling the already walled city, before then walling the wall to keep out reinforcements. Yes, Caesar was genius. Over the course of the several weeks following, Vercingetorix and the 180,000 men, women, and children trapped in Alicia were starving to death, and the Gallic general managed to get word to other Gallic tribes to aid him, receiving a response of 250,000 soldiers led by Commodus. Despite being outnumbered 4-1, Caesar's wall only allowed for a narrow opening, and thus Caesar still managed to ward off the counterattack. Finally, Vercingetorix surrendered, and Caesar's 7-year campaign came to an end. Upon returning to Rome, Caesar was hugely welcomed with massive triumphs, and Pompey paled in comparison. However, on March 15, 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by 60 senators led by Marcus Brutus and Gaius Cassius by being repeatedly stabbed in the Senate chambers, with sources claiming he was stabbed up to 23 times.